Welcome to another OU Insider Under the Visor Sooners podcast, powered by Janiking. My name is Brandon Drumm. I'm here with Parker Thune. We are in the portal, Parker.
That we are.
We cannot get out of it, but we got a lot of talk for you guys right here off season. We're going to talk bowl. We're going to talk portal, in and out, who's leaving, who's staying, maybe some potential incoming guys, all those are targets. We're going to talk about that right here on this very podcast. But first, we're going to pay some bills.
That we are. Janiking, folks, is the proud sponsor of the OU Insider Under the Visor podcast and a proud partner of OU Athletics as well. They're the greatest team to ever clean, delivering spotless results from stadiums to any size business across the country. Check them out at janiking.com for unbeatable commercial cleaning services. That is JANIKING.com. Thanks to the folks at Janiking for their partnership. The portal is buzzing, Brandon.
Jeez.
And people are starting to get impatient, understandably so. It feels like we're only 72 hours in, but it feels like it's been forever. It feels like it's been weeks. In reality, it's been 3 days. Folks are wondering when the first portal commitments are going to start to roll for Oklahoma. And who knows what the timeline is on the first commitment for the Sooners. But they're set to host several visitors this weekend, several more throughout the week next week. They're going to start coming for Oklahoma and everyone else, because up until this point, you haven't seen a ton of transfer commitments across the country. There have been a few here and there. Obviously, a lot of those being backroom deals that were already struck. But for Oklahoma and most everyone else across the country, I would say it's really going to be this weekend where you start to see these transfer commitments roll in en masse.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like this, look, this has been a whirlwind of a week for you and me in particular. So I can only imagine the coaches, right? It's been wild. The phone, like you're sitting here doing the intro, and I'm getting blown up with text messages as we speak. So, it's been fun, but tiresome at the same time. Oklahoma, they gotta start reeling some guys in. It's the issue all programs are running into right now, Parker, and I think it's probably something we need to talk about. And I just got off the phone talking to a source like before we got on here, obviously, and with the NIL going into underneath the university umbrella here pretty soon. What's happening is the university are trying to front load these contracts, and they're trying to get it on the cheap, right? Like, because they know everybody's about to be on equal playing field, right? As far as how much money they can spend within the university. You'll still have outside entities and donors and everything that can throw NIL, but the interesting part is the players they're onto that. And I'm told that this is like, there's some like shady ongoings with NIL, more so than ever before, because they know the gravy train is about to be put to a halt as far as like their money making potential, and everybody's trying to get every penny that they can pinch and scrounge from anybody right now. So you got some weird offers going out to players, some over the top, definitely not warranted, and then you've got them undercutting some players that probably deserve more. It's been a really weird portal start. Really weird.
And now in all the midst of it, you have Bill Belichick making his grand entrance into college football as well. By the way, it's now official elsewhere. Dan Mullen has been hired as the head coach at UNLV. So that's another splash hire.
Hold on.
Yes.
So
Brandon.
he had the
yes. He had the opportunity to be the OC at Oklahoma. Now he's the head coach at UNLV.
Swing and a miss there, Dan. Swing and a miss.
Well, here's what it's about these days, though. part of the reason Bill Belichick was willing to come coach at North Carolina in the collegiate ranks when he's never coached a down of college football in his illustrious career is because there was a pledge made from the university to increase the football program's NIL spending budget from $4 million to $20 million. And with Dan Mullen, as I understand it, it's much the same thing out at UNLV. He's going to have a pretty significantly sized war chest to go to battle with in the transfer market and on the recruiting trail, full of NIL spending money. And that's what coaches these days want. It's not as much
Mhm.
about the salary because the salary only lasts as long as you do. And so,
Yeah.
more so than a top tier salary, what a lot of these coaches want, or a lot of these coaching candidates want, as they explore conversations with institutions, is they want to guarantee, hey, I'm going to have this much money to spend. I'm going to have a bank account this size to be able to go up against the top teams in the country, the top spenders
Yeah.
in the country for portal talent and talent on the recruiting trail and win these battles and build a solid roster.
Yeah. So you bring up the $20 million for North Carolina, and I'm going to say it like Oklahoma talked a big game. Like, wasn't there somebody told me the other day, and I never saw it, so I'm going to ask you because I don't really pay attention to that type of like that's usually like Jesse's realm and stuff like the when the university puts out the press releases and everything. Was there a press release that said that Joe C was maneuvering $20 million into the NIL at Oklahoma? Or was that for when it moves under the umbrella of the university that they had that's going strictly to football? Is
I
that what
don't
he said? Because
I
I
don't
think that's probably what he said.
I don't recall anything to that
Okay,
effect.
see, that's what I thought because people kept telling me. I've had multiple people tell me that. I'm like, I think you're misunderstanding. I think it's whenever they go underneath the umbrella of the university, they're using all of it for football exclusively, that $20 million or whatever the budget. Um, so that goes into what I'm about to talk about right here. UNC's guaranteeing 20 million for Bill Belichick. They were at 4 million. Oklahoma was at what 13, 14 million last year, right? I'm hearing, oh, this is going to make people upset. I'm hearing between 17 and 21 million for Oklahoma this year as far as budget. Do you feel that's enough?
It better be enough because if it's not, Brandon, then if you can't build a championship roster with that, if you can't build a contending roster in the SEC with 17 to 21 million dollars, maybe you can, maybe you can't. I don't know what the budget is going to look like for all the other
I think
contenders in the league
UGA was
yet.
at 25, so 21 million
Yeah.
puts you about 4 million under
Yeah. Well,
UGA.
and there are people more willing to spend when you've won two national championships in the last 3 years. So
Okay,
Georgia's going to be in the upper echelon in that regard. For Oklahoma, the 17 to 21 million dollars, Brandon, is not an insignificant amount of money. That's a lot more than a lot of institutions across the Power Four are going to be
right.
going to war with. The question is how much of that is tied up in OU's quarterback room? Because if and when John Mateer hits the portal, there's a big old chunk of that, that's going to the quarterback.
2.5 million of it.
Well,
Yep,
and
that's
potentially
the
more than
word.
that,
Yeah.
potentially more, because who knows if another school like a Miami gets in the picture and drives up the price point on John Mateer. And so my big concern is this, and this is a genuine question that I'm bringing to the table. I don't know the answer. I don't think we can know the answer to this question yet. But my question is and will be, is too much of Oklahoma's NIL effort concentrated on the potential pursuit of John Mateer? And does that come at the expense of being able to go put packages together to land big time talent elsewhere at positions that are also of need for Oklahoma. You need a veteran quarterback.
Mhm.
That much is evident, whether it's that veteran quarterback or whether it's your homegrown kid in Michael Hawkins that starts for the Sooners in 2025. You need another quarterback, and you need another quarterback in that room with experience. John Mateer, when he hits the portal, may be the most coveted player in the entire country. He's not going to come at a bargain price. But if and when John Mateer hits the portal and Oklahoma is prepared, as we know, to make a run at the kid and pay a lot of money for him, what does that mean? What kind of trickle down effect does that have on the other positions of need for the Sooners? Like, for instance, defensive end being one, cornerback being another, offensive line, certainly a position where the Sooners need to add some depth and some talent. Wide receiver, you got to completely reshape that room. I mean, that room has been torn down to the studs in effect. And so there are needs for Oklahoma as you look at the scholarship numbers and where Oklahoma sits at the moment. Quick math here. The Sooners have 85 scholarships that they can allot.
Mhm.
They are losing, as of right now, this second, as we record this podcast, 28 of those scholarship players to either graduation or the transfer portal. They are set to sign 18, or now have signed 18 incoming freshmen. So that leaves 10 scholarships that are yet unaccounted for. We expect that Oklahoma will lose a few more, call it a handful, to the transfer portal that haven't been announced yet. And so what you're looking at, Brandon, is bringing in probably 15 transfers. And if you're going to bring in 15 good transfers, 15 transfers that can help you win, 15 transfers that are not just going to be bodies on your depth chart,
Yeah.
well, that alone is probably costing you what? Anywhere from $3 to $5 million,
Yeah. I would
potentially
assume so.
more,
Yeah. Probably
depending
more,
on if you got
actually.
a couple of
Yeah.
high dollar guys in the mix and somebody like Mateer and I don't know, $1 million edge rusher.
Yeah. It's going to be yeah. I think a good chunk of it's going to come from your left tackle, your quarterback, and your edge rusher. Those three are going to suck up a lot of the NIL and potentially the cornerback because um, obviously Ethan O'Connor is highly sought after.
He
He
is.
is one of the better players in the portal. And I'll say it right now. I think Oklahoma is in prime position to get him, and I think they're willing to pay what they need to get him right now. I think that's generally the consent that we hear. It's just if I'm a donor at the University of Oklahoma right now, Parker, and if you don't, I'm gonna look y'all straight in the eye. If you don't want to be 6-6, and you've got a couple $1 million that you can afford to expend and help the football program, I would do it now. If you don't want to be the laughing stock of the SEC, I would do it now and help Brent Venables, you know, build a roster because I get it that there was a lot of money that was thrown away because guys decided that they wanted to not play last year and they were hurt. And I'm gonna say it right now, Parker. I'll say it. I don't really give a damn. Like I wholeheartedly believe some of those guys that are not with Oklahoma anymore up and decided I'm not risking my NFL careers nor my NIL. I'm going to stay injured. I'm not going to come back because there were people with similar injuries as those that were on the sidelines that miraculously became able to play again last year. Why they couldn't. Isn't that weird? Isn't that weird sometimes? And I know people heal differently than others, but um, I think that's the world of NIL now. I think there's a lot of people that are afraid of losing their money and all that type of stuff because or have their NFL prospects fall, right? I think there's a lot of that plays into everything nowadays. So I get that. At the same time, you have to take that chance and try to win and pay up because if you don't as a donor, you're going to have this over and it doesn't matter who the hell the coach is. If you're not going to pay up for NIL, you're not going to win. That's just the reality. So fan base, donors, whatever that want to do the One Oklahoma Collective, I think that is probably the best bet, man. Like it's, and I say that passionately because we get to hear the behind the scenes aspect of it. And if it frustrates us to hear some of the BS that we hear, could you imagine the average fan? The average fan that got to hear that, they would blast it all over Twitter, call out whoever's not paying. I mean, it's weird. It's such a weird deal. I hope they regulate it soon, though, Parker, because it's getting vastly expensive for college football to even field teams now.
It's unsustainably
It
expensive.
is unsustainably expensive. Unsustainably expensive. Um, to the Mateer point, by the way,
Okay.
uh, uh, yesterday talked to a source that kind of knows what's going on in that realm. Not kind of, does. They were pretty confident in Oklahoma's chances. I don't want to say too much more than that, but they felt pretty good at Oklahoma and Mateer being a thing at some point. Um, I I'm going to ask you, at what point does that announcement take place, in your opinion?
By the end of this week. If it happens, I believe it happens very soon. And I know that's the expectation that people on the Washington State end have as well, is that it's not going to be until the bowl game. At least it shouldn't be until the bowl game, based on the conversations that are happening right now in John Mateer's circle. It should not take until the bowl game for him to make a decision and
Yeah.
finalize a decision, publicize a decision as to whether he's going to get in the portal or stay at Washington State. So
Will he still play? I've heard he's still going to play regardless if he's in the portal or not. Is that what you've heard?
I had
That's
heard,
his expect. That's his expectation. That doesn't mean it's Washington State's
sure,
expectation.
sure,
So,
yeah. I mean, I would assume his plan, one way or another, is to play in the bowl game
yep.
because he's practicing for the bowl
Yep.
right now. And why practice for the bowl if you're not going to play in the bowl?
Mm-hmm.
And moreover, it's not like if he does come out and he says, I'm going to enter the transfer portal, but I'm still going to play in the bowl game. It's not like Washington State's going to tell him, no, you can't do that. Kick rocks. Like Washington State wants to win their bowl game like everyone else.
Yeah.
And their best chance to win their bowl game involves John Mateer playing quarterback.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think a decision is coming soon as to whether or not he plays in the bowl game. Yeah, I would think at this point he does. But the decision, like it was at 2010 that LeBron James had the decision. Feels like in the eyes of Sooner Nation, that's what this amounts to from John Mateer.
Yeah.
The decision will come before Washington State's bowl
I,
game and probably here in the next few days.
look, I'm going to say this, and maybe I'm just pointing out the obvious. If there was worry that he wasn't going to be a Sooner, or that they didn't have something set up, don't you think Oklahoma had been offering other quarterbacks in the portal at this point?
I would think so.
Logically,
I would like if there was not confidence, and there has
yeah,
been confidence, right?
yeah,
There's been a confidence from the OU side since even before Ben Arbuckle was hired. That once you got Arbuckle in the crosshairs, right, that's the guy you want as your next OC. Oh, he's got a quarterback that's probably getting in the portal as well.
yeah.
That's going to be our guy, and they've been preparing accordingly for some time. Does that mean it's a slam dunk sure thing? Not at all, but certainly there is enough confidence from the Oklahoma side that they're willing to let the first few days, the first and most frenetic days of the portal
Mhm.
cycle play out without getting involved with any of the quarterbacks that are out there on the open
And
market.
and you missed out on Darian Mensa, which is like that's a tough blow. But I look,
Well,
there's
as I understand it, the deal for Darian Mensah was done some time ago.
no, it was, yeah, because they knew Malik Murphy was leaving, and they acted accordingly behind the scenes to make sure that once he announced that they had a backup plan already in place. I wholeheartedly agree with that. Malik Murphy would be the other one. I like if you were not going to get John Mateer, that is who I go grab. Just
Really,
yeah, I think he's a good player. Who else would you go grab right now?
the Mendoza kid from Cal.
No, he's a great player.
I like that kid, and I
Yeah,
think he's a better fit for Arbuckle's system than Malik Murphy.
probably. I just love I just want in my head to see Malik Murphy go up against Texas and Arch Manning, and if somehow, some way he could beat Texas down the line, that would just be funny to me. Like that's those are the college football storylines that I love. So, um, offensive line, man, holy crap! Uh, People don't think Bill Bedenbaugh in Oklahoma isn't being aggressive. You should see the offensive lineman they're going after. Goodness gracious! And I know people look at the Derek Simmons and they're going, Western Carolina. Have you seen who's offered that cat?
Well, and have you looked at the rivals portal rankings? And you can look at most anybody across the industry's portal rankings, and you're going to see different shades of the same color, which
Yeah, they're
is,
all top five, top 10 guys in the portal. Yeah.
and I'll use the
As
rivals
at their
portal
position.
because obviously that is our
Yep.
authority, if you will. The top two offensive linemen, mind you, not offensive tackles, offensive linemen, period, in the transfer portal are Ethan Onianwa, who's the number
Mhm.
12 overall player, and Derek Simmons, who's the number 18 overall player. Yes, Ethan Onianwa comes from Rice. Yes, Derek Simmons comes from Western Carolina. That
Yep.
has not changed anybody's feelings nationally. People who are performing these rankings, college coaches who are pursuing options in the portal for offensive tackles, everybody is on the same page with regard to Ethan Onianwa and Derek Simmons. Oh, yeah, these two dudes are hosses. Regardless of where they came from, these two dudes can play. Bill Bedenbaugh sees it with these two guys. They're both going to visit Oklahoma in the coming days. And we'll
Mhm.
see what happens with Simmons. He's got a full slate of visits. I like Oklahoma to get things done right now with Onianwa. I think
Yeah.
they're the favorite there
Yeah. I like Onyanwa. My favorite is Isaiah World, I think, but I think that's probably
because of his
everybody's.
name, Isaiah World.
No, I just think he's a really good player. I know people inside the Switzer Center, they like him as well. I wouldn't be shocked to see Oklahoma go that route, or at least try to, at least there. Corey Robertson the second, um, or Robinson the second, excuse me. I like him a lot.
Yep.
Um, I think he's a really, really good player, and I think Oklahoma has a look. I talked to somebody this morning that was like, no matter what Oklahoma does, they're going to have to pay a buttload of money to get two of those guys, potentially three. Obviously, they need an interior guy as well. Um, yeah, it's going to be interesting. And the thing is that I think that's Oklahoma's plan is like, hey, go get one of those big name guys, like whether it's Derek Simmons, whether it's Onionwa, whether it's Robinson the second, whether it's help me out, who's the other one? Backlinka,
Baklenko from Stanford,
Baklenko,
yes.
Baklenko, back. Yeah, whether it's Baklenko from Stanford, uh, they're going to pay for one or two of those guys. Like I think that's kind of the idea at this point. So I are you really worried about the offensive? Like, is it sounds really weird, right? Like, offensive line was atrocious, but they were atrocious for a reason. They were missing really good players this year on the offensive line. If they're healthy next year, and even if they lose guys to injury next year, like with the amount of experience that was gained with some of those freshmen and sophomores, don't you feel like there's with Bill Bedenbaugh's ability to continue to develop that the offensive line has a good chance just to be good in general next year, just good in general.
Any Bill Bedenbaugh offensive line has the potential to be good. This year's offensive line was not, and it was due in
Mhm.
large part to a myriad of injuries and a couple of evals that were not so great.
Yep.
And offensive line is a tough position to eval. It's
It
the
is.
toughest in many people's eyes. And so you're going to get a mixed bag sometimes with some of these guys. And Oklahoma certainly got a less stellar bag or a less stellar draw, if you will, in
Hmm.
2024 than they had in previous years. And I don't think that has completely unwound all of the goodwill that Bill Bedenbaugh had built up with this fan base. But certainly there are
A good
those that have
portion
been
of it,
more
yeah.
critical of him based upon what the line did in 2024. And it was one of the worst, if not the absolute worst in the Power Four. We all saw it. We all
Yep.
can agree upon that. But this is the beauty of the portal, Brandon, is that if you have guys that are pulling their weights, you retain them. You tell your NIL folks, do what it takes to keep these guys around. And then you go to the portal and you find highly coveted transfer options like Ethan Onianwa or like Corey Robinson or like Derek Simmons. And you go pursue the requisite pieces to be able to build a strong unit in 2025. It absolutely can be done.
Yeah.
Oklahoma's swinging big on the offensive line. And maybe it doesn't feel like it to some people because you see a kid from Rice, a kid from Western Carolina, a kid from Georgia Tech, right? And you go on down the list.
The highest
Maybe
paid guy is probably going to be from Nevada, people. Like this whole narrative, this whole can't, if it's not from a power four, it's not any good. That is bull crap because,
Oklahoma is
yeah.
actively pursuing some of the absolute best offensive linemen in the portal cycle.
Yep.
And so it's not as if they're just taking also ran guys. They're not just taking bodies, and they can't take bodies. That's true at offensive line. That's true at every position. We talked about that. Oklahoma's not in a position where they can just fill out their roster with projects. They got
Yeah.
to have impact guys. They've found and they've identified impact guys in the portal, and now they're going to push to land them.
Yeah. And this weekend's going to be big. Obviously, you're going to have Reggie Virgil, the wide receiver out of Miami, Ohio, in town. And look, I'm going to give it to y'all straight. I referenced it earlier in the podcast that there's been ridiculous money thrown at people. He's one of the people in the portal that there is some wild money being thrown at, like just crazy money being thrown at him. The good news for Oklahoma is one, Oklahoma's willing to spend crazy money on a wide receiver right now because they have to. Two, they have arguably his best friend on the team already in Jaden Gibson. Three, playing time is usually paramount for a transfer portal, and there is no place easier than Oklahoma for playing time right now at wide
Yep.
receiver. So, yeah, like it's simple. And if you don't think Oklahoma's not selling that they have a quarterback behind the scenes, you're crazy. So there is confidence there, like we said. Like they are recruiting in the transfer portal in a way that is conducive to land some of these guys. And I know people want to talk about Donovan McCauley from Indiana. That's not happening. And I don't want to dive into the whys of what's and the hows of why that's not happening. But it's not because Oklahoma's not willing to pay. There are other things that played into that. And so sometimes fits culturally just they just don't happen. So and I know people are going to be mad about that, but let's also remember that he dipped out on his team in October, folks. You're going to be all right. You're going to be all right without him. I promise you. He
And
there.
and we'd long known that that was a recruitment that was
Yeah.
going to be heavily dictated by money.
Yep.
And coming out of the visit, oh, you felt good about the number that they
Oh,
had.
it wasn't money that did. From what I was told, it was. That's neither here nor there, though. But yeah, their money was involved, but it wasn't the main detractor of it. At the end of the day, 100% from what I just got told this morning. But yeah, money is always like Michigan. It did kind of feel like he was playing the game though. Michigan, Oklahoma, trying to see. Sometimes the people that are running your recruitment can cause more harm than good. How about that? Does
Sure.
that make sense? There you go. Anyways, I just don't know who the other wide receivers are going to be for Oklahoma. Like that is outside of Reggie Virgil. Does anybody have a good sense of where they're going there? I sure as hell don't. Do you?
JJ Hester's in the portal.
Come on back, buddy. We need bodies.
Oh man, and what's crazy to me is there's a layup that's sitting out there for him. There's a layup if they want it at wide receiver.
Malachi Coleman. Yeah.
If they want it,
Same thing that
it's
has
a
to do with
layup.
Bias Satania too. Two layups, just sitting there, just for him. And Satania's been productive in the SEC. That's the weird
Mm,
part about it. Like, I don't get it. He's a 6 foot, 190 pound slot that can run like a freaking wind. I just don't get that. But we're not the evaluators, Parker.
no, no. If I
We
was,
are, but not within the Switzer Center.
if I was, I'd be all over Malachi Coleman right now. I mean, number 25 overall player in the portal, doesn't care about the money, loves Oklahoma, loves Emmett Jones. I'd be all over that one. But as of now, there's been no contact. So,
Wow, really? No contact at all.
yeah. So we'll see. Reggie Virgil is the guy that's kind of in the crosshairs, if you will. But outside of that, yeah, with things kind of cooling with McCauley, it's not entirely clear what else is out there right now
Well,
that's trending in a
Gibson's out
positive
there.
direction for Oklahoma.
Yeah, they got Gibson um out of Arkansas Pine Bluff that thought he was going to be taking a visit to Oklahoma. There were people in the Switzer Center that absolutely love that guy. It's just they couldn't get a consensus from what I was told, agreement on everything. So like I think that's kind of I don't know. I don't know where they're going to go at wide receiver, but they better figure it out because that's the position outside of offensive line that you need the biggest help. Yeah, obviously in quarterback, I think that goes without saying. So, um, Kendall Daniels, probably need to talk about that for a second. He's one of the top players in the portal, and we probably need to talk about Marvin Jones Jr. I
Yeah,
think we're kind of burying that one because everybody I know. I want to say this about Marvin Jones Jr. for everybody. If you're not on OU Insider VIP, I don't want to give it all away. We got information galore over there for you guys that, I mean, I don't think we've even talked about 75% of the players that we've got information on, visitors and stuff on this podcast. And we do that because our members, they deserve that. Like they pay for that information. They're going to get that information. So, um, as far as Marvin Jones Jr. goes, what I will say is that contact's been made and he is a fit and a really good fit for Oklahoma.
hmm
Like, could you imagine him opposite of our Mason Thomas? That would be deadly, dude. Just an absolute deadly bunch of edge rushers. The type of players you need. That's how you go win a natty. And naturally, it didn't take long for Oklahoma to go after him. As far as Kendall Daniels, Oklahoma's working that. I don't know where that's going to go. You remember how strange that recruitment was the first time around?
it was strange.
Yeah, I think it's going to go that way this time too.
Oh boy.
So there you go. About as much as I can dive into it right now, like it's just a weird deal. So, um, who do you think is going to be the first guy to commit to Oklahoma out of the portal?
At this rate, I mean, shoot, 24 hours ago, I would have said McCauley based upon how things looked at that point.
Yeah.
Now, I would say, I mean, I think the two guys that Oklahoma is objectively in the best shape with are both named Ethan. Ethan O'Connor and Ethan Onianwa.
Yeah.
Could see either one of those guys popping here in the next couple days.
I would probably agree with that. Now, if John Mateer got in the portal, he might beat him to the punch. And look, if I'm John, like, if you really are John Mateer and you're going to get in the portal, like, why would you not do it sooner rather than later? You want to play for a national title, you want to win. Players are going to take a discount to go play with the best quarterback, right? Generally, because they want to win. Help the team you're going to if that's really what you're going to do. That would be my advice. Does that make sense?
It does.
So, I if he gets in the portal, I don't think it lasts long. I know other teams will throw money out there, but I just think Oklahoma is going to be like, we're not going to get outbid for this. So, like that's just not going to happen. Kind of like the Dominic Williams situation, right? Like they just never were going to be outbid. They could throw whatever money they wanted to at Dominic Williams. Oklahoma was going after it. And speaking of that, defensive tackle recruiting
Mhm.
in the portal.
Oh
Bing,
yeah, defensive tackle where they're offering guys from Tulsa and Stony Brook and Louisiana Tech.
yeah.
People
Let
people are hating on those
Oh
offers
yeah, they
left and
I know
right.
they are, but can we remind them Florida State had the best defensive line in college football in 2022 and 2023. Where did all those guys hail from?
Well, the two guys that wound up being
First round picks.
first and second round draft picks and were the two earth movers on
Hmm.
that line, two guys that were doing the most. One of them came from the University of Albany, the other came from Western Michigan.
Yeah, I think the
And
point's
they're
made.
they're not all going to be Braden Fisk and Jared Verse.
They are
Right?
not,
Not
but
all these guys are going to jump to that level and dominate. But there's a reason Oklahoma likes these cats. And again,
mm,
everybody's job on the line, everybody's job is on the line, and they realize that. So you're not going to go offer the kid from Stony Brook, Lawrence. You're not going to go offer the kid from Louisiana Tech, David Blay. You're not going to go up the road to Tulsa and offer R.J. Jackson. If you don't absolutely, in your heart of hearts, believe that these guys can help you win and win in the SEC in
mm,
2025, there's absolutely no reason to take them if you feel otherwise.
yeah. I First off, do you really need game changers at defensive tackle with what you have returning? Like, do you need to go spin a crowd game? You need game changers, obviously, but I think you have those on the roster already. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
you got
you don't
plenty of
need a
them.
Walter Nolan.
That
Sure.
yes,
Yeah,
you
you
don't need a
have Dominic
Dominic
Williams
Williams,
coming back.
right?
You
Yeah,
have Grayson Halton coming back. You have Jaden Jackson and David Stone.
you got
You
Trent
don't
Wilson
need,
coming in.
yeah, you don't need a Braden Fisk.
Yeah,
Um, what would be good enough is a guy like, I don't know, a Jalen Redmond. If you could go find a Jalen Redmond in the transfer portal,
I
that's
mean
more than good enough.
that's a hell of a get, dude. He's killing it in the NFL right now. I mean, you can get a Jalen Redmond. I think OU fans will be ecstatic about that because you're getting a guy that had day two potential. Yeah, I would take that. I just think they need somebody that you get rotation out of, right? You eat up some snaps that can make plays that you're not going to get a big drop off there and that they're going to go and make plays. I like RJ Jackson. RJ Jackson from Tulsa was an H back out of high school, folks. Like he was Dimitri Flowers, like built just like Dimitri Flowers in college. And he just blew up and became a defensive tackle. He's super raw at the position naturally. Like this, I think this is what his was it his first year to play D tackle at Tulsa.
I don't know.
Um, yeah, well, I'm looking at his stats right now. Uh, It looks like he moved into that spot late. Uh, yeah, I think he was playing actually defensive end or outside. I don't know, some sort of different defensive position. Um, but he was only 6'3", like 240 pounds when he first came out of high school.
Mm-hmm.
This dude is almost 300 pounds now. And there are a lot of people that thought he was going to be an H-back type guy in college. So he's going to have the feet. He's going to be explosive. And he's going to be raw just because he's new to the position 1-2 years in. So I like him because I think that's somebody that Bates can mold and turn into a really, really good player with his athleticism because he is a freak. Like he's a phenomenal baseball player too. Like he was a stellar baseball player. Um, David, what was it? Was his last name? David
David Blay.
Play. So I talked to him a little bit last night. He likes Oklahoma a lot. I'm supposed to talk to his brother, who I guess is running his recruitment today, and I'll know more. Um, I wouldn't be.
Visiting next week.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say he will be in town next week, but I wouldn't be shocked if Oklahoma wasn't his top team at the end of the day. He really, really likes Oklahoma, so we'll see. Hopefully, I'll have more information on that on OU Insider VIP. Do you, as far as Oklahoma in the bowl game, Parker, what are they going to do at receiver?
Mhm. Ain't that the $1 million question? They might
What are they
be
going to do at receiver?
they might be running the triple option like Navy.
They got the quarterback to do it.
They got the quarterback to do it. They got some backs. They
Yeah.
got no receivers right now. They're going to be 5 scholarship wide receivers available for this bowl game. Brennan Thompson and 4 true freshmen.
Do you play
Zion
Do you
Reagans,
just play
Zion
Jacoby
Kearney, Ivan
Johnson?
Carrion, KJ Daniels.
You got to play Jacoby Johnson at receiver, right?
Why bother at this point?
I mean, you don't want to lose the Navy.
I mean, sure, but are you going to have that guy run through another, I don't know, 10 practices at wide receiver and then throw him 2 balls and then send him back to cornerback in 2025?
I don't know, but I mean, why send him back to quarterback when you can just play him at receiver in 2025?
So you're in favor of moving him permanently then?
Damn right I am.
Okay. Brennan Thompson, Zion Reagan, Zion Kearney, Ivan Carrion, KJ Daniels. Those are your available scholarship wide receivers. You have walk-on extraordinaire Jacob Jordan. You have a couple other walk-ons on the roster as well in Major Melson, who's a redshirt senior. You got Eli Merck. You got Trey Brown. Not that Trey Brown. Uh, Tennessee Trey
No, yeah,
Brown.
yeah.
Walk-on wide receiver Trey Brown. So yeah, that's what Oklahoma's rolling with. The cupboard is pretty bare. Maybe is Elijah Thomas going through bowl practices? Do we know conclusively yet on that?
I can ask him. I haven't asked him, but I can ask him. I'm
Did they
gonna.
just tell Elijah Thomas, "Hey, you're not redshirting next year. We'll make this your redshirt year. Why don't you go play in the bowl game?"
Yeah, are they allowed to play in the game?
I'm not sure.
Wouldn't that be awesome? Just finished his high school and now he's playing in he's playing
Shakota's
graduate.
finest.
He would probably go out there and get 100 yards first time he ever touched the field. And
Yeah,
the
there.
rising star right there. He's going to be a star anyways. I think I'm pretty confident in making that statement. So
You might get to see Devon Mitchell in the bowl game.
that
Be
would be
nice.
great.
Obviously, Bauer Sharp is out of the picture, so you would imagine Jake Roberts starts at tight end, and a lot of those guys in that room see some action with how thin Oklahoma is at receiver. Probably see some 2 tight end sets. Probably see quite a few 2 tight end sets, and with guys like Cade McIntyre and Caden Helms and Devon
Mhm.
Mitchell, all in the fold there. So, yeah, I don't really know what Oklahoma's offensive game plan against Navy is going to be because it's going to be severely limited by personnel. I mean, you have one normal size receiver in Zion
Yeah.
Kearney. You have a jumbo wide receiver in Ivan Carrion, and then you got three small speed guys in Brendan Thompson, Zion Reagans, and KJ Daniels.
Yeah, I didn't understand why Hester decided to not like he could have went in the portal after the bowl game because there's that window, right, where it's like a
Yeah,
week.
well, I mean, I understand it from a business
I
standpoint. You
get
don't
it,
want
but
spots to fill up other places, and then you hit the bowl game or you hit the portal after the bowl game, and you're limited to two, three options that might not be very good.
I get it, but maybe the options are better if he has a good game. I don't know. Like I'm just spitballing here, talking aloud here. But how about the schedule next year, dude? Like the interesting part to me is I think you're gonna have Jackson Arnold come back to Norman
You
in
very well
September.
might.
I
You think he's going to be an Auburn Tiger?
I do.
Wow.
You know, like
Pulling the
I can
upset
say,
over Leb,
oh
huh?
look, he's gone now. I'll say it now. Like I have a very strong relationship with that kid. Um, I think Auburn's in a good spot. Good spot.
All right. War Eagle.
I'll, I'll say it like that. So, yeah, and if people think that he's bitter, he's not. I want to get that out there. Like he's not bitter at all. Um, and he wishes nothing but the best for OU. He loves the university. It just like sometimes change has to happen for both
Mhm.
parties. And
Sure.
this is one of those instances. And it was unfortunate because like it honestly is not something that it wasn't a decision he took lightly. So yeah, he's a phenomenal kid, Parker. You know that.
I do. Yeah.
Um so I hope OU fans wish him nothing but the best. I really do because and obviously when he comes I think he's going to Auburn. It's not a done deal by any stretch of the imagination because there's some other really, really good suitors out there for him right now.
Well, and he's yet to visit Mississippi State, so
Correct.
Leb
Um,
might have the trump card.
correct. Maybe, yeah. But I I'll say this: like either way, I think there's a potential at some point before his career is done in college that he's back in Norman playing against Oklahoma.
Hmm.
Because they will play Mississippi State during um his senior year, whether it's in Starksville or Norman, we don't know yet, but we know that that's going to take place. So that's going to be interesting one way or the other. And again, there's some other really good suitors out there for him, but I just hope OU fans don't hate on him too bad because he really did love it at Oklahoma at the end of the day. What the running back there was that running back offer. I think you talked about it on OU Insider.
Yeah. Think that might have been the product of a misconstrued conversation. I'm not
Kind of
really
like
sure.
that other wide receiver from ECU
Yeah,
at that
kind of like the
time.
Chase Sowell situation,
Yeah.
the East Carolina wide receiver that posted an offer and then deleted the offer because he realized it wasn't actually an offer.
I wonder who's
Uh,
doing that to him.
yeah, I as far as I know and from what I understand and talking to people that are very, very well placed on the matter, Oklahoma's not in the market for a portal running back.
Yeah.
And so I was surprised when I saw Wayshawn Parker post an offer from Oklahoma. Uh, quickly reached out, conversed with a few folks, and came to the conclusion that, yeah, it doesn't sound like that offer is legit. Doesn't sound like Oklahoma's actually pursuing Wayshawn Parker. And they don't really have reason to, Brandon,
Mhm.
because if you bring in Wayshawn Parker, a guy that contributed at a high level for Wazoo as a true freshman, you just further crowd the backfield and you run the risk of running off one of your other guys because
Yeah.
there are only so many touches to go around. And you now have four guys in that backfield that all featured prominently or have featured prominently into the picture at some point for Oklahoma during their careers in Norman. Gavin Sawchuk, Javonte Barnes, X Robinson, Taylor Tatum. You add Torrey Blaylock to the mix. You've got a juiced up walk on in Andy Bass that
Yep.
wouldn't be a walk on many other places. And then, of course, Gavin's little brother Gabe that had scholarship offers out of high school and chose to walk on at Oklahoma as well. That's a pretty well-rounded running back room.
Yeah.
And I don't I don't think you need to screw with that.
No, I agree. Was talking to somebody the other day, obviously around Norman, and they said they felt like Gavin Sawchuk, Taylor Tatum, and Torrey Blaylock were, and I'm quoting, tailor made for Ben Arbuckle's offense. Just perfect fits. I imagine you're not going to see the issues running the ball that you have witnessed over the last year. When Oklahoma's had an identity, they've had really good running backs, whether it's Eric Gray, Javonte Barnes, Gavin Sawchuk. They've been phenomenal, right? And I think that's when they get the identity again. I don't know that Javonte Barnes is going to fit the outside zone that Ben Arbuckle likes to run, but we know that that is Gavin Sawchuk's like wheelhouse. Like that's what his best play is, the outside zone. We know that that's going to be Taylor Tatum's best play, and we know that Torrey Black. Those are speed guys.
Mm-hmm.
Those are guys that can get out in space. They can line up at wide receiver. They can catch the ball. All three of those guys are multifaceted wide running backs that fit so perfectly. I think Xavier Robinson is tailor made as a H back here, and Ben Arbuckle uses the H back quite a bit, by the way. So I think that's it's. Does it not feel like Javonte Barnes could be kind of the odd man out, kind of when it comes to like fit, when it comes to Ben Arbuckle's offense, just a little bit? I know that he'll tailor things for Ben Arbuckle or for Javonte Barnes. Ben Arbuckle will, but as far as like just perfect fits for certain positions, does it kind of feel that way? As far
Hang
as
on, like,
compared to all the other guys.
well, okay. Explain this to me like I'm five, in the words of Michael Scott.
Okay.
Why doesn't Javonte
No,
Barnes
no, no. I feel
constitute a perfect fit?
he's not. He's more of an inside guy, right? He's more of a split zone runner. They're outside zone guys that want to hit the edge. He
Sure.
loves running the outside zone. Like that has been one of his bread and butters as far as his offense at Washington State when it comes to handing the ball off. Um, and then you have the H back, and Xavier Robinson's built like an H back,
Mm-hmm.
can block, can catch the ball the backfield really well. He's just going to be a physical runner, and the H back runs the ball a little bit in Ben Arbuckle's offense. So that's why I feel like those guys are like perfect fits. I'm not saying Javonte Barnes isn't a good fit. I'm saying it's kind of weird how those guys are the perfect fit, and Javonte is like, and you watch, he's going to, again, Ben Arbuckle says he tailors his offense around his players and his personnel. So that doesn't mean that he won't fit. I'm talking about what Ben Arbuckle's done previously at the other stops, not at Oklahoma, because he could look at what Javonte Barnes does and go, I'm going to start running this more,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like the
Well,
GT counter is like a perfect fit for Gavin Sawchuk because he's a freaking patient runner,
and this is kind of what
right?
I go back to, and the reason I wanted you to dive into that a little bit, because as I see it, I go back to the very first thing that Ben Arbuckle said upon taking the job: the personnel dictates the scheme,
Yeah.
right? So I think he's going to find ways to maximize Javonte Barnes' talent, even if
Yeah,
it isn't a hand in
I
glove
said
fit.
that.
Yeah,
I was just saying previous from where his previous stops, they're perfect for what he was doing at the other places. The running
yeah, but I
backs,
guess what I'm saying is what he was doing at the other places isn't necessarily going to align with what he does at Oklahoma.
no doubt, no
I
doubt, no doubt.
I think you do have the cool thing about this Oklahoma backfield, and I think it's a testament to the way that DeMarco Murray has recruited. You've got a lot of guys with varying skill sets, guys that don't
Yep.
necessarily appear to be carbon copies of one another. And there's going to be a way, and there is a way. And I imagine this is what Ben Arbuckle is going to do. He's going to find a way to integrate all of his backs into the scheme in some form or fashion, make sure they're touching the football, make sure that the defense has to account for them, and generally allow what they do well to dictate how he utilizes them and when he utilizes them. It will be interesting to me to see who emerges as the quote unquote lead dog, or if there is a clear
Yeah.
lead dog in the backfield, because I don't know
Yeah.
who that would be at this point.
Is DeMarco going to allow there to be a lead dog with his rotations?
And that's a good question.
So
I'd
I don't
imagine
know.
Arbuckle coming in as the guy that has basically been tasked with saving the Venables era at Oklahoma. I mean, call it like it is. He's going to have the ultimate say on that, I would think.
Yeah. Uh, Man, I would love to be a fly on the wall. Venables likes to tinker with the offense. He likes to, get in there and do his thing because he's a very micromanaging type of coach. To fly on the wall when Ben Arvold goes, man, you brought me in here to save it. Let me do my thing. And you all go back over there with the defense. Kind of like what we know Levy was. They left Levy alone and they let Levy do Levy things. And it worked. Top 5 offense, top 10 offense. That's the way it was in the back-to-back seasons. So um hopefully it gets back to that point. Like there's trust, right? Like BB trusts who he's hired and just lets him be him. All right. I think that's going to do it for this version of the OU Insider Under the Visor Sooners podcast powered by King. College students with a .edu, you got emails from a .edu. Active duty military, got emails from your active duty military email. Teachers, got emails from your teachers email. And can't be from Yahoo, can't be from Gmail, none of those. Emails from .edu, emails from your .gov or US or whatever, your .ok, your .e, whatever the K-12, or I don't know, whatever your email is as a teacher, active duty, college student, doesn't matter if you go to Timbuktu University, East Handkerchief University, we don't care. You email us at ouinsider@rivals.com. We will email you back a promo code to get OU Insider for 1 year for $11.95. And I'm going to tell you, there's been hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of y'all that have taken advantage of that. And we've gotten feedback on it and they absolutely love it. The board is hopping. You're getting close to, I think we have a portal thread, folks, that's on OU Insider right now that has close to 100,000 views. Like it's insane. It's got like 700 comments on it. Like it just keeps growing and growing and growing and growing, and it's a fun thread for everybody to go into. Plus, we post notes every day. Like if you're on OU Insider, there's been no day that has been missed with portal notes and multiple portal notes, mind you. So OU Insider is where it's at. Again, .edu, your government email if you're active military, active. And obviously, if you're a teacher, from your teacher's email ouinsider@rivals.com. We will send you a promo code to get OU Insider for $11.95 a whole year. A whole year. Everybody else, $9.95 a month, $99.95 for the whole year. It's a great gift. It's a great, if you have a diehard OU fan in your family and they want to be in the know and they want to know what's going on behind the scenes all the time and they want to be able to converse with dang near 10,000 Oklahoma fans on a daily basis, that's the place to go right there. OU Insider VIP. It is hopping. The board you can start your own threads. We go in there, we answer your questions. We read all the threads, we answer your questions. We read the comments in the threads. We do everything we can to be as active with you. We do chats, we do everything. We're there to interact with you to make sure you're informed on a daily basis, whether it's Parker, myself, Jesse, Brian Clinton, and Brody Lusk, who's back with basketball. And that is a huge get. If you don't know Brody Lusk, get to know the man. He has killed it when it comes to OU recruiting, OU basketball, OU team information, and the basketball team ranked 13th in the country. We didn't even talk about him, and I feel like we did an injustice with Bedlam coming up on Saturday, but that's something we can discuss after the game this weekend. Give props to Porter Moser and company because they are killing it. So I hope you guys go out and support them. All right. Subscribe to this YouTube channel. Give us likes, give us thumbs up, give us 5 stars on whatever platform you're listening to this podcast on. Make sure you're subscribed to that as well. Helps us because the more we can get, the more we can go into the NIL to help the players and stuff. Because that's kind of our goal right now, is to have them be able to get as many advertisers as we can get. That way we can, and we got more coming up for you guys as far as ads and stuff like that. That way we can start getting into the NIL landscape and continue to help Oklahoma out as well. So, all right, that's going to do it for Parker Thune. My name is Brandon Drumm. We will see you guys in a few days on another installment of the OU Insider Under the Visor Sooners podcast powered by Jana King. Have a blessed day.